It's now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
All right. Please let me know if you can hear me right at the beginning of the show. Because as I was closing a couple of browsers, my microphone and the headpiece, you could hear me. Okay, good. It has not been a good last couple of days for yours truly. Haven't been on video in 2 weeks. I don't know if you could hear it in my voice, but I got fucking COVID again. Third time. September is never a good month for yours truly. I got COVID in September of 2022. I got it in September of 2022, September of 2023, and now September of 2024. But I'm up here. Here's basically what happened. If any of you tune into the daily news updates, probably, I think it was Thursday morning's report. I said I was under the weather. And then Friday came and I felt pretty much fine. And I don't know what the hell happened between Friday and Saturday, but it came back 10 times worse. And throat tasted, you feel like you're swallowing glass. And my nose is bothering me and I can't talk loud. And I got this horrible headache and I'm sweating like a pig. So I tested myself last night. And sure enough, it tested positive for COVID. So I can't believe this shit is still around, but I got vaccinated 5 times. So hopefully by tomorrow, things will be a much different story. But tonight we got coffee and we got a giant thing of water if needed. So trust me, I'm taking loads of vitamins. I'm taking loads of shit. So I was thinking about not doing tonight's show, but I said, you know what? I feel good enough, to talk a little bit. Plus, there's some decent stuff going on in the world of pro wrestling. Why not? Even if we come up here an hour, it's better than nothing. Because sitting in the bed, plus I have to endure my wife watching Batista zombie movies. The fuck is that? I mean, I know he came out with the Killer's Game, but I hear his dumb voice before, and I say that jokingly, and I'm like, what the hell is this? It's like, oh, it's Batista in a zombie movie. I'm like, oh, come on, man. I feel shitty already, and you got to put that crap on my TV. So, how's everybody doing tonight? This is a Kevin-less show. For a few of you that did not know, we do a special episode probably like every 4 to 6 weeks on YouTube going forward. And then every Monday night, Kevin and I are live for the DTKC show on a Discord channel. So it's just me tonight. So I want to thank you all. If you're joining me live, big shout out to you. If you're joining me on the archive, same as well. Hope everyone had a great weekend. Monday Night Raw, we got tomorrow, and it's going to be the final stretch, the Bad Blood. And I know some of you are going to say, no, next Monday's Raw also. Yeah, but tomorrow is really where this week we get the final push for matches. But it seems like a pretty heavy favored Raw for Bad Blood. I mean, Nia Jax is going to get a match, and I personally think it's just going to be Bayley, because does Naomi have truly bad blood for Nia Jax? I wouldn't say that much, and she's not feuding with Bayley right now or yet. Yeet. So I don't see Naomi in that, but Naomi may end up becoming the Speed champion. So I don't know. Rich says those bi-monthly DTKC shows are his Saturday night's main event of Clash specials. I appreciate that, and I know Kevin does as well. We don't want to overstay our welcome on YouTube, and I get it. I do shows almost every day now, but YouTube is just flooded with crap. and unfortunately, a lot of the crap is what gets noticed and gets all the attention. I mean, I watched so many podcasts last week doing breaking news, live reaction, with all due respect, Uncle Eric, live reaction, AEW TV deal. And I'm watching these videos just out of curiosity, and I'm like, did I miss the press release? I mean, there's a TV deal. We don't know exactly how much money it is. We don't know how many years it is. We know it's on TNT and TBS still because of the venue sports situation that for some reason nobody wants to talk about. And I'm like, I have to compete with that? Man. Did you see that video of Seth Rollins getting thrown out of the Indianapolis Colts Bears game today? That was funny shit, man. Go on Twitter if you haven't seen it yet. I didn't see the whole video. I'm sure the arena itself filmed the whole thing. Somebody just had fan video, but Seth Rollins, I think, was wearing a Bears jersey, and they put the camera on him, and he ripped it off to reveal a Colts jersey. I don't remember the player's number. It was Williams, number 18 or something. And they one of the football players threw him over the stands and ejected him from the building. I thought that was funny stuff, man. Because you know what it is? I don't know if you guys know. Every week, Seth Rollins will tweet, "I hate football. I hate football." And some people try to actually believe that. But, yeah, Seth Rollins is pretty funny too. Seth Rollins is about to be back on TV very, very shortly. If you hear pauses, and it sounds like sipping noises, especially for my audio friends out there, I'm sipping on coffee, trying to get rid of this headache and wake up a little bit, drink something hot. And if you hear no noise at all for a few seconds, that means I'm muting it so I could blow my freaking nose. So I have tissues on hand. So let's get into the sit down. What is the sit down basically? Till we finish, could be an hour. Sometimes it's 3. You ask the questions, you post the comments, and I share it with the world. I react, I answer. We talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. Everybody who is live that wants to be in the chat room can contribute to the conversation. And Richard loves the Steelers. Let me tell you something. I mean, just to reveal my age, I was a big Steelers fan in the 70s, late 70s. I mean, I wasn't even 10, 12 years old yet, but I didn't even know why. All I know is, I saw the Mean Joe Green commercials. I'm just saying football. And then football started getting inundated with commercials. O.J. Simpson, diving over turnstiles in airports. And then I became a big fan of Terry Bradshaw. And I was a fan of Terry Bradshaw. The Steelers, I think it was the Cowboys that they would feud with. I don't know. I liked the Steelers in the late 70s. But then once I started understanding football a little bit more, I became a Giants fan. And I was a Giants fan ever since. So let's get into your questions, shall we? So a few of you sent some super chats before the show. They are not required, everyone. They are appreciated, obviously, and they will go to the front of the line because they help fund the shows, fund what Kevin and I do, help us upgrade. This week, we will have the shirts. So I should have the designs back tomorrow or Tuesday. I'm going to send it right over to Kev before I even make any call on it. If Kev approves and I approve, we'll show everyone, and they should be on sale by next week. So celebrating 20 years of the DTKC show. And it was interesting. I saw this come in right before we went live. It has to do with the 20-year anniversary of the passing of the Big Boss Man. Big Boss Man, Ray Traylor, died 20 years ago today. And Kevin and I started doing shows together. I mean, we still had Joey 924 and Black Moses, but we started doing shows on a regular basis, Kevin and I, right around this time. Some of you have asked me, like, what date is actually the anniversary? And it's hard to say because Kev was a guest on these shows in 2003. Kev did a couple of hotline reports with us in late 2002, early 2003. Not regular, just once in a blue moon. So there's really no exact date to put on it. But right around this time is right around when Kev came aboard on a regular basis. And 20th anniversary of Big Boss Man. You know, it's funny when you said it, OTS Tribal Queen. I think of the Big Boss Man's career. I think even when he was Big Bubba, loved that theme music. When he went back to WCW as the boss, like the guardian angel, and everything he did obviously in the WWF. But then when he came back and was full-blown heel in the late 90s, my air conditioner went on. Thank you. When he came back as a full-blown heel in the latter part of the 90s, and he was wearing the all black as like a henchman, I thought he was great, man. I mean, I always thought Big Boss Man was great. So damn agile for a big man. Really agile. Freaking air conditioner went off. Excuse me for a second. Don't fuck with me like that. You don't even want to know what happened with my air conditioner last week. Maybe that's why I got sick. I had to add a mount underneath my air conditioner. I got this letter. I think I said it on one of the shows. I got a letter. I think it was Patreon show. I got a letter that if I didn't put in a bracket for my air conditioner, by the end of that day, I was going to get fined $50 a day. So I pulled the air conditioner out of the wall, and there was all dirt and sludge and everything. And I'm sure at some point, not intentional, while I'm doing the work, I'm like, but would air conditioners give you COVID, though? No, probably not. Probably just made me feel like shit. But Big Boss Man, man, you think of his legendary career, and it comes down to one word: pepper. I actually was going to post on social media pictures of my dogs today and say, in tribute to the Big Boss Man and pepper, which one should I cook? But then some people that are not wrestling fans may not get the joke and get very, very upset at that. But who sent this in earlier? Because it had to do with Boss Man. Jimmy James. Thank you, Jimmy, for your generosity. Jimmy asks, he says, I was searching old articles about Big Boss Man who died 20 years ago today. I found one that said that I and Georgie and Macropolis handled the funeral home's guest book for Boss Man. Do I have any personal connection to Boss Man, and why did we set it up? He's just curious. Believe it or not, I didn't have any personal connection with Big Boss Man. I had a couple of conversations with him, with Georgie, because she was very good friends with Georgie. He was very good friends with Georgie. And once in a while, I'd be chatting with Georgie online because we used to do a lot of online gaming and stuff. And she helped me, obviously, with the kidney drive for you-know-who. And talked to him a couple of times. He worked, a couple of events on the Northeast over the part of the 90s, but never friendly or, just cordial. I mean, didn't know me by name or anything, but when he died, it was Georgie Ann's idea. For those that don't know, especially back in the 90s to, I would say, 2010, like if somebody died and you wanted to put a guest book online, more times than not, you had to pay for it. And it's not that the families were cheap and they didn't want to pay for it, but, just like the wrestling community, there was no place to really send your condolences. We're talking late 90s to mid 2000s. It was not that long ago that Hercules Hernandez, it was the 20th anniversary of Hercules Hernandez passing away. And if you go to the funeral home, because I know his guest book is still on there because somebody found it a couple of weeks ago, you'll see guest book created by myself and Georgie Ann. So since Georgie was so involved with wrestlers, we would be the ones to set up the guest books. We set up one for Road Warrior Hawk with the funeral home that he was laid to rest with. The one for Boss Man in Georgia, Hercules Hernandez. Didn't have any personal connections. It was just that no one else on the net was doing it. So Georgie, would get involved and I would get involved. And since I was always technically savvy, she's like, could you get this going? And I'm like, yeah. So we would always set it up. So, but it's cool to see that these are still up after 20 years because, the family never forgets and you don't ever fully heal from it. You learn to live with it. And I'm sure for some of the members of the Big Boss Man's family who are still on this earth, to go back to that guest book and to see the wrestling world just outpouring love. You got to remember, too, Boss Man in the final stages of his wrestling career wasn't very well liked as far as the person goes. And that was misconception more than anything else. People that knew Ray Traylor outside the ring said, pretty nice guy, tough guy, but pretty nice guy. But I don't know if it was because of his heel character and the way he was portrayed on TV. Maybe some people really were bitter over Pepper, even though that was just like Chinese food. But there was this big misconception at that time that Ray Traylor was like a jerk. Nothing of the case. If you even go to Wayback Machine and go to my website, wrestling-news.com, go back 20 years ago and you'll see the article I put up when he passed. And you'll see right at the very end, talking about, that he was very well liked, and sometimes, just perceived wrong. I don't know why, but 20 years already, man. That's time just flies, man. It really does. And we're approaching the anniversary of another wrestler death. I don't remember who it was, but someone else's passing is coming up. Well, maybe I'm mixing the two up. Maybe Hercules is coming up soon. But we're already in September, so there's not too many left in 04. But, yeah, Pepper. Always remember that for Pepper. And you know what the funny thing is? I wonder how the wrestling world would react if you did that in 2024. My sources tell me that it was Arby's. That's the difference from 20 years ago to now. 20 years ago, we were like, oh, shit, that's fucked up. He cooked Pepper. 20 years later, my sources tell me that was from Texas Roadhouse. Sometimes be a wrestling fan. Or shut up. Curated Vibrations. That's a very interesting name. I like it. Thank you for the 5-spot, Curated. Matt Cardona should return at Saturday night's main event. Ahead of his time in terms of using social media, got himself over. I think the indie god shows up, gets a big pop. I will tweak that. Not saying that your idea is wrong. Neither is mine. I would like to see Matt Cardona return at NXT first. And I'll tell you why. Even though the WWE fans now probably have only been wrestling fans for 5 years, 10 years. I mean, you have older wrestling fans too. But for the WWE universe, it's Zack Ryder. I mean, we acknowledge what he's created, his character on the indie circuit. I think Matt Cardona has done enough that he returns as Matt Cardona. But I think you bring him to NXT first to reintroduce him as Matt Cardona. Not confuse the fans. I think you have Matt Cardona show up at NXT. Then you have the commentators on the main product during the week mention that Matt Cardona, you formerly knew him as Zack Ryder, returned to NXT in a shocking way and attacked Trick Williams or something like that. And then the name gets reintroduced. And then for the younger wrestling fans and for those that really never followed him, because there are a lot of wrestling fans that only watch WWE and nothing else. I think you put him in NXT first, then you could have him pop up down the line. That's how I would do it. It's not about ability. Plus at the same time, having some veteran talents in NXT is a huge plus. You know, Kev and I had a couple of conversations last week. I had one on a solo report, and then I had one with Kev as to why the Motor City Machine Guns going to NXT over the Lucha Bros is a huge win. It's not disrespecting Alex Shelley or Chris Sabin, but their veteran knowledge and sharing that with the young wrestlers and working with them and helping them and tweaking them is very, very important. And especially that they don't have a WWE career would give them even more of an incentive to want to help a little bit. And the Lucha Bros, it's not a racist thing or anything like that, but let's be honest, the Lucha Bros don't speak English. It's very, very hard to carry a conversation and communicate, you not when you're having a match, sure, suplex, headlock. I mean, it's not as simple as that, but, being able to talk about the road and talk about etiquette and talk about respect and talk about in-ring and, hey, could you check out my promo? Tell me what you thought of my promo. And again, just imagine Ray Phoenix. Imagine Ray Phoenix and I'm Tony D'Angelo. Hey, Ray, go check out. I'm going to cut this promo in the middle of the ring in 5 minutes. Do me a favor. Check out my promo. Tell me what you... I sound Southern because I got a cold. Hey, Ray, do me a favor. Do Tony a solid. I'm going to cut a promo in the middle of the ring. I want you to analyze it. Tell me what I do wrong. And as I'm cutting the promo, hey, the family isn't that... And Ray Phoenix would be like this. Because Ray Phoenix don't speak English. Hey, what'd you think of my promo? Chocha buena. I'm trying to be lighthearted about it. The Lucha Bros, my God, Legado del Fantasma, the LWO. I know, you don't want to limit them to just them. But if you're going to start the Lucha Bros off with a bang, you put them up against Legado or the LWO. You don't put them up against Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. You put them up. Then again, I could see them doing that segment, if Austin Theory isn't a babyface yet, where they're like, do you speak English? Remember Funaki? No, it was Taka Michinoku. Jackass. So, yeah, how we ended up from Matt Cardona to that, I don't know. But Matt Cardona, NXT first, get his name reintroduced. And then as he does a little bit, you bring him to the main roster. That's what I would do. So, all right, somebody's trying to stir it up. Police Squad, I appreciate the 10 spot, my friend. But I don't know if you're going to like the answer I'm going to give you. Missionary versus Sean Ross Sapp. Who do I have? I have nobody. Last week, apparently Mish Wrestling Soup had a little verbal skirmish online with Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful. Some people were trying to turn me against JD from New York because we have two totally different views about Ricochet taking on Will Ospreay October 7th, whatever it is, 8th, 2nd, the 5th anniversary AEW show. I think it's the 2nd. Here's the thing, and I'm sorry if it sounds like a cop-out, but I'm a married old man now, all right? I'm not saying old as in, I'm going to pee my pants, but what I'm saying is that, I've been there and done that. I'm too tired to have wars with people. Listen, I hate the clickbait. I hate the fake news. I thought people reporting that Jimmy Uso died on YouTube was absolutely disgusting, and it's left there for people to make hundreds of dollars off of that. There's a lot of things that upset me, but getting into wars with people, I'm not interested anymore. I worry about me. Social media, especially Twitter, has turned into a cesspool, and I blame it on Elon Musk. And that might surprise some people because I really don't dislike the guy, but I blame it on him. You know, adding that ad revenue aspect to it ruined Twitter. But I see what goes on online. And even when I try to play peacemaker, nobody reacts to it. You get maybe 20, 30 people that'll react to it. People want to see the fighting. I'm just not interested. I stay out of people's shit now. I don't have issues with anybody, and I want to keep it that way. I wish everybody would just get along, but that's never going to be a possibility. So I don't take, it's not that I don't take either side. It's no, I'm staying out of it. Staying out of it. Doesn't mean that I like everybody online, but the point is I'm too old and too tired for it. And I've learned my lessons over the years. I used to be the biggest asshole. And that's probably part of the reason why over 20, 25 years, we get very little respect online. I've definitely, been a cause of that. But that doesn't mean that over the last couple of years going forward, I can't change that, but that's how I look at it. So I don't get involved with them. I don't get involved with anybody. I just do my own thing, have fun, and that's it. Thank you, Raging Girl Gamer. She says, I love how Don Tony handles things. I appreciate that. It's not hard to do. I mean, you resist a little bit. Like, I do want to say more, but I'm like, what is that going to do? Thank you for having my back. Like, what does that really do? I mean, it's not about having someone's back and not having someone's back. It's just like, you know what? I'm too tired, too old, got too many things going on that are much more important than Twitter wars. That's why even what happened with Kevin Nash and Logan Paul. Now people are trying to turn it into storylines. And again, not trying to keep bringing up Bischoff. This motherfucker posted a video. Oh, they should face off. They should have a match. That's money. Yeah, 65-year-old Kevin Nash. And people run with it. I liked it. I love this name. This guy, listen, don't take this personally, but this kind of reflects what we're talking about right now. WrestleMess. You got to give it a few seconds to pop up. WrestleMess. Thank you for the 5 spot with the Raw. He sounds like Bret Hart. Remember how Bret Hart didn't say WCW, who would say the WCW? With the Raw. Moving to Netflix, combined with Triple H's booking, we are headed of what could be the greatest era of Monday Night Raw ever. If wrestling fans feel that way, that is cool with me. That is absolutely cool with me. The thing, though, is, can I pull it up now? Oh, here you go. Here you go. Now we can acknowledge you. If wrestling fans feel next year being on Netflix is the greatest era of Raw ever, awesome. I don't like comparing the Attitude Era to today. Just like I hated comparing wrestling from the 70s and the 80s to the Attitude Era. And yes, we all have fantasy matches. Who would win in a match between Bruno Sammartino and Bret Hart? Just throwing two random people out there. Well, who would win in a match between this person? And yes, we could always fantasize one era against a different era. But the Attitude Era reflected society. I mean, society was very, very loose at that time. It wasn't 70s, let's go to discos and get laid and do drugs in the clubs type deal. But in the 90s, with the Attitude Era, it was about disrespecting authority, girls gone wild. MMA, became, a big thing. Ultimate Fighting, Extreme. ECW hit exactly when they needed to. If ECW would have started in the late 80s, it would have been dead in the water. If ECW would have started in late 90s, they would have been kind of like a copycat or even, worse. ECW started at the perfect moment in time. But the Attitude Era was a big reflection of society. That's why Steve Austin against Mr. McMahon got over as crazy as it did. But as far as the greatest era ever, these days it's different. You didn't have streaming media in the 90s. You had Real Player, Real Media. Anybody remember the Real Media that you would watch online, 56K? That's the closest you got to streaming. Here, it's different because now you're going on a platform that you can curse, that you can go over the top. I don't think there's going to be as much cursing and blood and adult content on WWE television as you think. This is going to be a little bit of a wake-up call for some because WWE is making so much money right now not doing that. Why would you change it? Because a small group of people who are already watching wrestling want more? We want blood. We want blood. Well, you're not going to get blood. I'll watch anyway. I'll watch anyway. Why would you alienate young viewers or families that they say, oh, I can't let my kids watch that? What you will get is a little bit more of like what The Rock did to Cody Rhodes right before Mania. You will have moments where it will get edgier. Absolutely. And if wrestling fans who were not around during the Attitude Era think that this is the greatest era of all time, awesome. If you were around during the Attitude Era and you still feel like what's going on in 2025 is the greatest ever, awesome. As long as we're really enjoying what we're watching, that's what matters at the end of the day. One thing I will tell you, I was always a huge supporter of Vince McMahon. What he did for me as a wrestling fan, being in the Northeast, getting mostly WWF growing up, the man has done an insane amount for me in my wrestling fandomhood. My relationship with my grandmother, God rest her soul, the friends that I made over the years, getting a little opportunity to do some indie wrestling shit, even though it wasn't good. There's a lot of things, and it all originated with watching wrestling as a kid, and it was WWF. It's terrible to hear what's going on now and what Vince could have done. At the end of the day, we don't know exactly what he did and what he didn't do. But there's enough there to know that he definitely abused his power because he was a billionaire. That's not in dispute. I agree with that. But the thing is this. One thing that I see more and more as we get further away from Vince running the helm is that Vince, if I could compare Vince, I wouldn't say Vern Gagne. I would say Tupperware. And for anybody who's like, what are you talking about? Anybody remember Tupperware? You store your food, plastic containers. Tupperware is still around. And they just filed for bankruptcy. Tupperware in 2017, okay? Now you see why I'm saying this. In 2017, Tupperware's shares was $70 a share. Now think back to WWE signing the Saudi deal. The stock went up to $100 a share, right around the same time. Tupperware never changed with the times. And as Tupperware started going into the 2020s, Rubbermaid and a few other companies and Amazon, Tupperware wasn't even on Amazon, I think, up until this year. They didn't change with the times. So although they were still around, other entities were flying past them. 7 years ago, Tupperware stock was $70 a share. Now, it is 50 cents a share. Just filed bankruptcy. Vince McMahon, over the last bunch of years, did not adapt with the times. And by default, and because of history, and because you had talented wrestlers enough, I'm not saying that everything Vince did was shit. Vince was involved with the Wyatts. Vince was involved with the Bloodline stuff. Vince was involved in a hell of a lot of shit that we see today. But as we get further and further away, you realize that Vince too often was just on cruise control. Didn't have that anymore pressure on his back to really like go over the top, go out of your way. Try just because Michael Cole would say with Jerry Lawler over the last 7 years, this is the greatest Raw of all time. This is the greatest main event of all time. This is the most spectacular, unbelievable match of all time. Doesn't mean that it is. And you heard that how many times? And listen, I'm not shitting on Michael Cole. I've always been a coal miner. I've always been a supporter of Cole, you know, outside the WrestleMania match that he had with Lawler. But Vince just was on cruise control too much. So now with Triple H at the helm and working for Emmanuel and not McMahon, Triple H knows his job can be replaced if needed also. So there's this sense of, you know, urgency, sense of pressure, sense of, you know, okay, we did that. Now we got to top it. And the challenge is during the year when you're not around WrestleMania, and this is why, listen, and thank you very much for that again, WrestleMess. This is why I think SummerSlam is going to 2 nights. Because one thing that we get every year with WrestleMania is we all get consumed with the buzz. We're 2 months away. We're 5 weeks away. We're 3 weeks away. It's the go-home Raw before WrestleMania. It's the night after WrestleMania. It's all the talk. And every time we get consumed with that, it's more about the event and not necessarily the individual participants. Of course, the matches are important, but you get consumed with the event itself. Even for AEW All Out, you know, as you got closer, people were consumed about Wembley, and not necessarily the card itself. So how do you keep that momentum for the next 10 months, 9 months after WrestleMania? When you're in June and WrestleMania is 2-3 months behind you and 9 months ahead of you, how do you keep that momentum? What do? You look at Raw, you look at SmackDown. The summer months were not that spectacular when you think about it. There was good shit, no question, because Triple H is at the helm, but it didn't have that WrestleMania feel. So how do you keep that momentum up? Well, now you divide it half a year. Now you have WrestleMania. You have the aftermath of WrestleMania. You got to deal with Saudi, so you got to build up shit for Saudi that you may not have normally built during the year outside of it. And then before you know it, it's the road to SummerSlam. And SummerSlam is like WrestleMania light. And you get through SummerSlam. And now you're in September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. Okay, 1 extra month. You're 7 months away instead of 6 to WrestleMania again. So them doing 2 nights is to give that WrestleMania feel again in the summertime. And people get consumed over the event and not necessarily just look at Saturday night's main event. It's Saturday night's main event. I can't wait. I'm excited. And then I thought about it. I remember when they came back and we had like the boxing match with Matt Hardy, and we had other ones. And I think back of the more recent Saturday night's main events, and they were okay, but they were kind of skippable if you really think about it. Now, obviously, under the Triple H helm, they're going to be better. But am I excited more because they're bringing back something from my childhood, complete with theme music? Or am I excited that the same wrestling I'm watching now is going to have an extra night 4 times a year? If you really think about it, what's so amazing about Saturday Night's Main Event? It's not. For me, I got extremely excited and I was like, wait a minute. You know, what are we going to get? Dominic Mysterio versus Damian Priest? I can see that on Raw. It might even need to be watered down a little bit more because of NBC. If anybody goes back and watches NBC Saturday Night's Main Event in the 80s, it was a little bit more watered down than what you would see on any other day. I'm not crapping on Saturday Night's Main Event, but I realize I'm more excited about the nostalgia aspect of it. So Triple H is really, he's got his foot on the gas. Not everybody is going to hit. I mean, you look at Raw, you can name a few people who are just not hitting. You have a few that they're trying to cover up with WWE speed. But you look at SmackDown, there's a few people that are not hitting. The only way to get Giovanni Vinci over is to make him a sympathetic loser. That's what the storyline is. Didn't change because some wrestling news site says creative was irate about it. Nothing was changed. You know, it was just fan perspective. Some people they're not going to hit with. You can't hit with everybody. If everybody is a hit, when someone is not, it's going to look like a disaster. Train wreck. All right. Martin says Hangman Page is the best character in all the promotions alone. He has a storyline for more than 5 years. Martin, I say this with no CM Punk in the back of my mind. Him having a storyline sitting in the back pocket for 5 years because AEW doesn't use him as often as he should and has interaction with Swerve, then it goes away for 5 months, then it comes back again, and then it goes away for 5 months. You know, that's not a continued storyline for 5 years. If you really think about it, are we going to say if the Usos reform and and the New Day end up reuniting later on and they end up having a feud, oh, this is a 15-year feud? You know, I get it. There's no handshake moment with Page and Swerve. I will say that Hangman Page, putting all the other stuff aside, Hangman Page should be so farther up the food chain in AEW, and I know he was world champion. It's not it. It's the perception of where he ranks on that roster. You know, I'm not trying to compare him to Austin or compare him to Cena or compare him to Reigns. I'm not. But one thing is for certain. In the 80s, when I was watching WWF, Hogan was the guy. You thought of WWF, Hogan was the guy. There were times where Savage was on top. There were times when Warrior was on top. There were times when others were on top. Bret Hart was on top. Then you go to the 90s. The 90s up into maybe the late 90s, then it started circling around Austin. And at some points it was The Rock, but not as much as you think because The Rock was around with others. And then you had Cena. Then you had Roman. Hangman Page is not that cornerstone guy in AEW, and he should be. He should be. Who's the cornerstone guy in AEW? Bryan Danielson, who is literally on borrowed time right now. They need to push this guy and just keep him there. He's got to be that center stone. He's got to be that guy that when his music hits, everybody gets out of their fucking seat. I don't care if a storyline is 5 years or 5 minutes. That guy should be in a much better position. And that is nothing but compliment for him. It's not MJF. It's not MJF. MJF is perceived that way because he's the highest paid guy and the war in 2024. MJF is not that guy. He's off TV. He was feuding with Daniel Garcia. He comes back and he's the opening of a quarter. He's one of many. And again, listen, MJF one day will be that guy. But MJF is not that guy that opens AEW, is the opening of hour 2 and then the close of hour 2. Back, especially when the Attitude Era was at its peak, you would have people have 3-4 segments a night. As long as it wasn't Triple H, it was cool. MJF is not that figure stone. People perceive it that way, and for a lot of people, he's their favorite, and that's good. But AEW doesn't perceive him that way. And just because you have the belt doesn't mean anything. You got to also understand too, AEW creatively shoots themselves in the foot quite often because MJF, it felt like, wherever the money takes me, that's where I'll go. You have to have someone who perceives that they give a fuck about AEW. Not the tattoo on the ankle, but that they truly, deep down, like AEW is my home, my home. Adam Copeland gives the perception that he cares more about AEW or Dustin Rhodes than even MJF. MJF, it's like, it's business, scumbag. This is where I make my money, scumbag. It's like, you didn't have Steve Austin saying that when he was at his peak in the WWF, but you felt it, that Steve Austin, like WWF/WWE, was his place. And he was there to drink beer, kick ass, throw stunners, have a good time, ride his moped, sing, what? The guy came across like he had a good time, that he was enjoying what he was doing. MJF doesn't come off that way a lot. And that's AEW's fault. They did that stupid storyline with the Elite. Remember what I said? They should have done a storyline where Tony Khan brought back MJF to take out the Elite. MJF would have come off as a superhero for AEW fans, and they didn't even do that. He came back, and what did he do? Suddenly the Triple B doesn't matter. I'm the American champion. It's just, that's AEW's fault, not MJF's fault. No, Benjamin, MJF going where the best money is just storyline? No. For a lot of fans, they believe that MJF stood with AEW because Tony Khan paid him through the fucking roof and told him, you only have to work 20 dates a year. Just think, if MJF was in WWE right now, he would have worked more dates by now in 2024 than MJF will work in 2 years in AEW. It's contract. It's like Brock Lesnar. MJF, I compare to Brock Lesnar, and I'm not knocking MJF. Very, very smart man. Kevin and I used to laugh. I don't know if you guys were around. Kevin and I used to laugh when Brock Lesnar would be home for weeks and be the champion. And you'd have the social media. Now I sound like Bret Hart, the social media. And you had even journalists, hating on Brock Lesnar. This guy never shows up to work. And Kevin and I, I'll never forget, we did one episode and we were like, what do you expect him to do? Just pop up on Raw in Georgia and say, hey, Vince, I know I wasn't scheduled for tonight, but I just happened to be in the area. This one's on me. Let me go out there and let me kick some ass. It's not the way it works. Brock Lesnar set up this deal that he only works a couple of dates, gets paid all his money, is the champion, and you wouldn't do that? If I told you right now, hey, you want a podcast with me? I'll give you $1,000 a month. You only have to show up twice a month. No. I must do 15 episodes a month. No. I must earn. You'd be like, oh, this guy, what are you, just dumb moron here. MJF is a very, very smart man. MJF does not have to work the WWE grind and is getting paid very, very well. But one day MJF will go to WWE. And Netflix is 10 years. And WWE will not change drastically, but they will be a little bit more relaxed with the strong language, with everything else. MJF will fit in like a glove. He will fit in like a glove. I am not knocking MJF in any way, shape, or form. Anybody that could get a really big deal and do very little, like I see people, I don't know if they're doing it simply to just get ad revenue, but they're complaining about Okada. The hell is Okada? What kind of Okada are we getting in AEW? What the hell is this? If I'm Okada, I'm literally sitting in my hotel room laughing my ass off like, wow, I get paid this much money to do this, to say, fuck you. You wouldn't do that? Oh, that'll totally ruin my career, what everybody perceives to me. I must have a 5.5-star match. Bullshit. These people are very smart. Twix says MJF is AEW to the death. No, there'll be a point where MJF has done everything he could in AEW. For some wrestlers, sometimes it's time to go. It'll come for some people in WWE. Some people, it'll hit a point. Look at Ricochet. That's why I was a little confused about the uproar last week about Ricochet getting the match with Ospreay. Did I miss something over the last 5 years? Ricochet is a world champion? That Ricochet is the focal point of a company? Like, Ricochet goes to AEW. Why does anybody think that Ricochet suddenly is going to be main eventing pay-per-views? He's facing Ospreay. You're going to get a 5-star match. Like, stop treating Ricochet to something. Just because Ricochet believes that he should be higher on the card doesn't mean that he will be higher on the card. I think Ricochet is extremely talented. I think Ricochet felt like he hit a wall in WWE and he wanted different opponents. Has a whole new crop of people that he could fuck with in AEW. And Ricochet's, listen, let's be honest. Since Ricochet's been in AEW, he's had great matches. Are they that much different than what he was doing in WWE? Are they that much different? With outside of some extra outsides, are they that much different? They're not. They're not. You look at the Ricochet matches, like he's doing very similar to what he was doing in WWE. He faced the Beast Mortis. Oh yeah, there's the push. But I didn't have any problem with it because people are trying to put Ricochet up here, and it's like, no, some people are going to be over here whether you like it or not. Well, in defense of Ricochet, he's still doing a lot of his WWE styles because when you do it for so many years, it's kind of like riding a bike. This is your instinct now to do this, 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 and this. As you get further away from WWE, he will start adding more other things. Bryan Danielson's a good example of that. Bryan Danielson, when he first went to AEW, other than the first match or two, where he decided, I'm going to just fucking, do whatever the fuck I want, his matches were very similar to WWE. And as time went by, he started doing things that he used to do in Ring of Honor and other air outlets, entities. And then Bryan Danielson, his matches changed a little bit. All right, got to give another super shout out. Somebody sent a very, very generous contribution. Oh, curated. Vibrations. Vibrating. Cody is top 5 on Fanatics merchandise sales across all athletes and personalities. Don't say that too loud. The lead singer of American Nightmare, he don't like hearing that. Actually, he does like hearing that because he's suing Cody right now. Very cool that Cody's in the top 5 of Fanatics merch sales. Been watching WWE since 99 when he was 7. That would make you 31? That would make you 31 and 32. Feels like it just keeps getting bigger. Oh, and you're DeMarcus. Oh, okay. I should have saw by the picture. Okay. What's up, DeMarcus? I started my hotline in 97. And I started my hotline because of ECW. And I covered the Monday Night Wars. And I will tell you that for me, I mean, channel surfing was awesome, and you had a lot of wrestling content, and even ECW was still around. I think a lot of people forget that WCW and ECW went out of business only a month or two apart. ECW went out of business around January of 01 and WCW March 26 of 01. So they were closing right around the same time. So 2000 was an interesting year. For me, my favorite year of all time when all three companies were around was 1998. 1998, for me, ECW, I always loved ECW in 95. But 98 was different, and it was more mainstream. And I think the summer of 98, for me, is WWF, WCW, and ECW hitting on all cylinders. 99 is right borderline when WCW started declining. 99 is when, you had the Austin era in full-blown effect, and Rock started to leave for movies. Kurt Angle was on the horizon. John Cena not too far off. Brock Lesnar not too far off. So, 99 and being 7 years old, it's an interesting time because at 7, you didn't have any major superheroes. In the 80s, you had Hogan, or you had Savage or somebody else, or even Sting for some people. As you get a little bit older and you get into your teens, now you're talking 2002, 2003. And now you have NWA TNA just starting, which they started in 02. You had, to me, I think WWE's greatest roster was, 02, 03. If you look at WWE's roster in 02, 03, right around that time frame, it's the greatest roster they ever had. Because the wrestlers who should have been in WWE from WCW started coming in because the contracts with AOL Time Warner were done. You had ECW wrestlers already there. WWE was on momentum. Unfortunately, when you started to get to 05 and 06, that's when shit started changing. And you had the WWE's version of ECW. And then you started having the tragedies. Eddie Guerrero passing away, more steroid scandals, Bob Costas and Vince McMahon not too far off at that time. There was a lot of shit going down. And they had, meetings in Washington, and you know what the funny thing is? I'm not trying to get off topic. You know what the funny thing is? I remember when they were having the meetings in Washington about steroids and wrestling and everything. And I remember, because we had a lot of connections, not a lot, but we had some strong connections in TNA giving us a lot of dirt. And Dixie Carter felt left out, that she was not more heavily involved in those meetings, which was kind of funny. And it kind of reminded me of 2002, because in 2002, when I was working for XPW in the Northeast, there was an infamous meeting that the Pennsylvania State Athletic Commission had because of the match with Shane Douglas and Terry Funk, where Terry Funk sliced up his arm, pulled down Lizzie Borden's panties in the middle of the ring. Supreme and Angel were brawling in the women's bathroom, and they claimed that the daughter of the State Athletic Commission was in a stall, and Supreme opened the door and was bleeding in the women's bathroom, and there was no woman there in that bathroom. Trust me, I know. But the thing is, the next day, and I told this story not too long ago, that Bill Apter still remembers this day, which is so cool. The next day, they had an emergency meeting with the Pennsylvania State Athletic Commission, and they had representatives from WWE, Ring of Honor, CZW, XPW, and a few others all meeting because they wanted to ban certain things in Philly, in Pennsylvania, with hardcore. And even at that time, TNA, I think, was represented. I think NWA TNA was represented. But when they did the steroid scandal, around that time with Benoit and Eddie Guerrero and stuff like that, Dixie Carter felt left out. But now, because Vince is out of there, it doesn't feel like we're on cruise control anymore. During the year, you're going to have lulls. It can't be WrestleMania feel all year long. You remember when Rock made Cody bleed? Do you remember all those people online? The Attitude Era is back. Remember a year and a half ago, starting next Monday on Raw, it's going to be TV 14, which ended up being a lie. And we exposed that, why people lied about it. Is it TV 14 now? Did the Attitude Era come back after what happened after WrestleMania? No, we're right back to where we were before. But because people felt that, it was good. It was strong. And that proves to you that if you feel wrestling is on a high right now and they're not giving you over the top blood and violence and adult content and strong language, it goes to show you wrestling does not have to be TV 14 to be good. So if you feel that way, that it's getting bigger and bigger, you should. TKO buying this company, listen, look at it like this and we'll move on. TKO bought the company for what, 10 billion, give or take a billion or two? They didn't buy it for a couple of million like when WCW went out of business. TKO paid prime money for WWE. Big money. You want to make money off of that. That's why when TKO first bought WWE and the stock was around $70 a share, every wrestling journalist couldn't wait to report the news that the stock was only trading at $70 a share. When was the last time that you saw any of those wrestling outlets reporting that WWE stock is $110 a share right now? Give or take a few dollars. They don't talk about it when it's good, but when it's on the decline, they can't wait to talk about it. So TKO buying WWE at this kind of price, you want to get bigger and you want to make money. It's not like you bought it and gutted it and now rebuilding it and turning it into something. So it should feel bigger because TKO doesn't want that decline. And then they're like, what the fuck do we buy? So DeMarcus says he bought it at 76 and sold it like 90. Listen, I bought the WWE stock in the mid-2000s. I think I paid $10 a share and I sold it at like $12 a share. We have podcasts from that time. I don't remember what year it was, but I bought like 100 shares. And then after maybe like 9 months, 10 months, I sold it. I only made like $2 a share. And now I'm like, fuck, if I would have kept it all these years later, I would have made 10 times my money plus the dividends. Who would have known? I know a lot of people won't believe me, but I told my father 20 some odd years ago to invest in eBay. One thing I always appreciate about Kev says that I'm always trying to be ahead of the times. It's why 20 some odd years ago, we were talking about podcasting online before it was even a thing. Now I hopefully you all understand the future of streaming media and why commercials are airing on Netflix and everything else, even though other people are trying to tell you otherwise. When eBay first came out, this was like 99 or 2000. And I was like, this is the future, man. This is the future. And I told my dad at the time, invest in eBay. I don't think he did, but I didn't either. So I didn't have the money. Bernard, did I like Jacob Fatu killing security personnel? That was awesome, man. Anybody else want to pat me down? Listen, if you follow our shows on Monday, the one thing that Kev hates about Jacob Fatu is he grunts like a dog. I like that Jacob Fatu is talking. I like that he's got that wise-ass attitude that he ain't taking shit from no one. You know, seeing Tongaloa, like, to the security, you know, you don't intimidate me. Motherfucker, get over here. Grab him by his fucking jerry curls. Get over here. Security here. You pat his ass down. Jacob Fatudo, oof. Stay away from him. Listen, those were all indie guys, obviously, and they took bumps. That's the one thing, man. When you are an indie guy and you get to do something physical on WWE programming, you got to take a bump. You fucking go all out. Make it look like you're dead, you know, just to impress, you know, just because you never know in the future. Jacob Fatu is quickly in my top 5 favorites right now. The guy, he just perceives to be badass. He is badass to an extent. And, you know, he's very, very cool with wrestling fans outside the ring, which I always appreciate also. Vance is asking, would I be a near millionaire if I still had all my stocks? No. I never was really a big investor in stocks. I just never really, I mean, I would at times. I tried penny stocks in the 90s. I did penny stocks in the late 90s when you used to be able to like call a telephone number and you enter in like your information, I think your card number or something, and you would watch something on cable TV. I don't remember the whole thing. I used to bet on horse racing through the telephone in the late 90s when it started becoming a thing on TV. You watch the horse racing, you call a telephone up and you place the bet. I just never got into it. Never had that kind of cash like that. But yeah, Jacob Fatu is badass, man. How's my finger? It's still a little bit messed up. It hurts. It's healed pretty good. Hurt, heal. Bray Wyatt, rest in peace. Hurt, heal. It's still there. I mean, it's still got a little bit of scabbing, which I think I just accidentally knocked off. It still hurts. It hurts more than anything else. I don't know why, but so far, so good. Did not get infected, thank God. This COVID sucks, man. I'm sweating like a pig. I don't know if you could see that, but my voice is holding out. Vincent Ricci. Vince Ricci. Sounds like Giovanni Vinci. I'm doing all right. I got freaking COVID a couple of days ago for the 3rd time. An hour before the show started, I was sleeping. You know, I took cold medicine and Mucinex and headaches and drinking coffee, and I got water over here. So, yeah, I got COVID a couple of days ago. I think my wife gave it to me, to be honest with you, because she went on a job interview last week, and after the job interview, she started feeling like shit. I said, I bet you they gave you COVID. I said, they better give you the job also. So she's probably going to get the job, and it's a pretty cool job. I don't want to say what it is yet. She gets it, then I'll let you know. But for the last 4 days, she's been sick like a dog. 4 or 5 days. Me, I felt sick Thursday morning, and then it went away. Friday, I felt great. And then yesterday, it felt like somebody beat the shit out of me. And the whole night, I just felt sick. It felt like I was swallowing glass. I started getting like hard headaches, and last night I took a COVID test and tested positive. But like I said, I got shot 5 times. So hopefully, you know, by tomorrow I'll be better. So thank you very much, Bernard, and everybody for your well wishes. That's why I wanted to do the show a little bit, figuring, you know, talk a little wrestling, get my mind off of it, have a little fun for a little bit. I mean, I'm not going to lie. We're going to end the show soon because, you know, I don't want to overdo it, especially tomorrow. Kevin and I have a show too. So, Bob the Builder, is okay to get a retro review of WrestleMania 20? Not right now, but sure. Absolutely. WrestleMania 20. So that was 20 years ago. It was 2004. 2004. I don't know if I have coverage of it, but I would have to look at Mania 20 again. I'm sure Kev and I could talk a little bit about it. Sure. 2004, I don't remember the lineup, but it was still a great period. You know, like I said earlier, 0203, I think, is the greatest roster WWE ever had. 04 is not that far off. Austin Rock, yeah, I think that was towards the tail end. You know, Austin wasn't the same by that time. You know, Austin started to be more of just the on-air character, riding down with the trike and drinking the beers and all that post-Raw footage. Yeah, Kurt Angle, Eddie Guerrero. You know, they had some good stuff. I had chicken soup this afternoon. I may have some more later on. So, but yeah, I will definitely go check out the card. I will refresh my memory a little bit with WrestleMania 20, and yeah, and then I'll try to figure out what Kev. I don't know if we'll talk about it tomorrow night, maybe, you know, because then I got to tell Kev, you know, review 20. He's like, yeah, I'll do it right now, you know. So, but I could do it myself. I'll do it next week. I'll give some thoughts on it, but for sure. I do watch the old WrestleManias. I feel sneezes coming, just so everybody knows. You see me like race and mute the thing, you know why. Raging Girl Gamer, thank you for the 10 spot, girl. Too many kids now watch WWE. They can't go back to the Attitude Era. Yes, she's also upset Omos isn't on TV and not a champion. I think Omos will be back on TV. The problem with Omos, what do you do with him? I think Omos has got to come back as a babyface. First off, Omos has got to come back as a babyface. Omos doesn't have that mic piece anymore. MVP is gone. Omos is so charismatic outside of WWE. You know, a lot of you will not remember this, but I know some of you will. Big E. When Big E was still with Dolph Ziggler and AJ Lee, Big E on camera was as tasteful as water. Big E's personality was not shown on television. And I know for a freaking fact, I have all the episodes of Kevin and I saying this to back this up. Kevin and I used to watch videos of Big E hanging out in the locker room, hanging out at a restaurant with the wrestlers. And Big E would make everybody laugh, come off as super charismatic, funny, just very likable. And we used to say, why isn't WWE allowing Big E's character's personality to come off on TV? They would just have him over here like this, almost like the Taz look when Taz was first doing that thing, you know, the shoot fighter in ECW. And then slowly they let Big E be a little bit more charismatic. And then the New Day stuff came around and everybody fell in love with Big E. And trust me, Big E's personality on camera was very similar to what he's like off camera. And Omos, maybe not as fluent as Big E, but Omos is so well liked outside of the ring. And Omos is so charismatic and funny. And I think a little bit more of that personality needs to come out on WWE television. And it doesn't hurt if WWE shows a little bit of behind the scenes footage of Omos in real life at the same time. You know, it was not that long ago that Omos went back to his country and reunited with relatives I think he hadn't seen in, 15 years, 20 years? I saw the video and I was like, oh man, if this guy was on TV right now as a character and they showed that, and he was a baby face, that would help so much. It was such a cool moment. And the timing was just off. That came and left. And, Omos, I think WWE either needs to bring him back to TV or let him go. And the sad thing about Omos is if they let him go, I don't know if he stays in wrestling in the States. I don't know. I don't see him becoming this, like big talent in AEW. I don't see him going to TNA. I don't see him staying in wrestling. I see him going back to his native country, maybe becoming a movie star, something. I just get that vibe. It's kind of like Great Khali. Great Khali was older, obviously, but Great Khali, when he was gone, most of us felt like, that's it. That's it. We're not getting Khali in other promotions. And Khali ultimately was gone and never to be heard of again. Outside of, the States, you hear about him. So Omos, there's so much left. And I'll tell you this much. You know why I don't think they'll let Omos go? Because Undertaker really likes him. And a lot of big men really like him. And he's got that size. And that doesn't come around that often. I think you bring Omos back to TV. You can't put him in NXT. Other than Obafemi, who's he going to go up against? You almost feel like you got to put him on Raw. Have him get into it with Bronson Reed, Braun Strowman, Otis. That could be good for a few months. But I think you got to bring Omos back to TV. I do. He didn't do much with AJ Styles because the pairing just felt strange. It had nothing to do with a black guy and a white guy. It was just like, why is AJ Styles suddenly with Omos? Early on, we thought it was going to be like a Shawn Michaels Diesel type thing. This is my bodyguard. Until we realized AJ Styles don't need a bodyguard. And Omos was not really playing the bodyguard all that much. I think Omos will be back on TV very soon. Do you wait till the Royal Rumble? Maybe. I think he'll be on Tribute to the Troops, which is coming up in a couple of months. I truthfully believe Omos will be back on TV, and they got him, bring him back as a babyface. Bring him back as a babyface. Let him have a stare down with Bronson Reed. Even if he loses to Bronson Reed, the fans will get behind him. Definitely. Thank you, Raging Girl Gamer. I appreciate that. Omos versus Hammerstone would be interesting, but Hammerstone is not a household name yet for the majority of WWE fans. So, a small group of people would get into it. Unless you have Omos pop up on TNA. Still on the WWE roster. But I would not reintroduce Omos for WWE as popping up in TNA. He's got to be back on mainstream TV. 316 MMA. How would I book a match for Liv and Rhea in 2 weeks of Bad Blood? Thinks that Liv should keep the title. Well, the scenario that Kevin and I have been leaning towards, and we'll do predictions a week from tomorrow. We've been leaning to the idea that Raquel Rodriguez helps Liv Morgan win. Raquel Rodriguez is this close to returning, which we've covered before. The only question is, do you have Raquel Rodriguez feud with Liv Morgan, or do you have a team with Liv Morgan? And the only thing that's stopping me from having Raquel align with Liv Morgan, I'll tell you the two issues I have with it. And I know on the surface, a lot of people like, you know what? Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez have history together. Raquel coming back and helping Liv win, and that could have Raquel feud with Rhea Ripley. Fits like a glove. Yeah, it does. But Raquel Rodriguez is not going to be in the Judgment Day. And that's the only thing that's stopping me right now from full-fledged going with that. How do you have Raquel Rodriguez come back, help Liv by attacking Rhea? That allows Rhea and Raquel a feud, and Liv could feud with someone else. But you still have to keep that attachment with Liv and Raquel in some way, and Raquel's not going to be in the Judgment Day. So, and shout out to Doctor. Sorry, my friend. His phone battery's dying. He's got to jet out for the live, but thank you, Doctor. Doctor. Who did that song? Thompson Twins? Hated that song. Anyway. That's the only thing that stopped me about Raquel Rodriguez. I think Raquel Rodriguez feuding with Rhea Ripley would be cool. Another thing is, I still think the Wyatt Six are going to feud with Judgment Day. I have felt that should be the next feud. It fits. Nikki Cross, Liv Morgan. You got Dominic Mysterio, Finn Balor, and JD McDonough. And then on the opposite side, you got, my God, Finn Balor. You talk about Demon, bring back the fucking Demon and have him go up against Uncle Howdy. And then you could have the other members of the Wyatt Six, Dexter Lumis, Joe Gacy. They could go up against JD McDonough and Dominic Mysterio. And then Carlito could just get his ass kicked from everybody. So I think Liv Morgan should retain. I don't think Rhea Ripley should get that title back. Unless you have Raquel Rodriguez lay out both Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. Maybe she has a confrontation with Liv Morgan and we think she's back as a full-fledged babyface, and then she turns around and lays out Rhea Ripley, and then she walks off on her own. She wants that championship, but she also has unfinished business with Rhea Ripley. So Raquel Rodriguez basically favors no one. Roderick asks, will we ever see a women's match main event night to a WrestleMania? It's always possible. It depends. It depends on who's available at the time, what the momentum is like, and if the fans want it. It's not going to be forced. It's not going to be forced. We went through that the last couple of years. Maybe not 40, but if I remember 39, people were actually reporting that WWE is seriously considering Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley to main event WrestleMania Night 1. And I'm sorry for saying it like this, but those are the people out there that just feel like, women and men wrestling 50-50. The men main event one night, the women main event, and it wasn't news. It was what fans wanted. And that's one of the problems of today. People want stuff and they report it as news. There was never a doubt. Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens against the Usos was the way to go. Period. No diversion whatsoever. One day, absolutely. Depends. Depends on who is at the top at the time and who's available. And if it feels right, they'll do it. It'll be interesting if that ever happens, who it ends up being. That would be really interesting. I mean, we can't predict it. Can't predict it. Tristan wants to know my take on the Dungeon of Doom storyline. I always liked it. I always liked it because I never overvalued it. I thought it was fine. I thought Jimmy Hart managing the Dungeon of Doom, I always loved the theme music. Maybe feuding a little bit too much with Hogan at the time. Kevin Sullivan being part of it was fine. I actually never had a problem with it. I always wanted Mick Foley's Dungeon of Doom t-shirt that he wore in ECW in 1995, right before he left to go to the WWF. Or it might have been 96. I don't remember if it was 95 or 96, but might have been early 96. But no, I like the Dungeon of Doom. One of the infamous moments in growing up Don Tony was when Maniac and I were going halves on the last ever wrestling show at the Elks Lodge where ECW kept their home. We were debating on what the main event should be. And Maniac wanted to reunite the Dungeon of Doom, bring in Kamala, bring in Kevin Sullivan, bring in others, and I wanted to reunite the Triple Threat because the Elks Lodge had history with ECW. And I look back on it and I'm like, Maniac is a very smart person. He probably had no intention on reuniting the Dungeon of Doom. He said to me, if you want it that bad, then you got to pay for it. Because if the fans don't show up, then you're going to be stuck with the money. I'm like, all right. And then he was worried that Bam Bam wouldn't show up. Because Bam Bam Bigelow, some people may not know this, there was an incident a couple of months before where he fell asleep on the George Washington Bridge. He had taken something and he fell asleep on the George Washington Bridge, and he never showed up for a show that we did. And he almost got arrested over it. But then Chris Candido and Tammy, Chris, God rest his soul, they were still, was hit or miss which version of them you would get. But I ended up, paying out of pocket, and we had the biggest crowd that ever was at the Elks Lodge, outside of ECW. But I always liked the Dungeon of Doom. Shout out to Theme Parks. Theme Parks and Things with Johnny just gifted a membership, and Jay Carlos got it. Yeah, just so everybody knows, when anyone gives memberships, they're random. I can't gift it right now because the program I'm in doesn't allow me to gift it. I did it last week when I was doing it with Kev, but thank you, Johnny, for that. Very cool. By the way, I know there was a little confusion this morning. Blame it on the COVID. I did the weekend news update this morning, and I put the video version on YouTube, and I just put the settings, and I didn't realize I used the settings that I use for this show, and it went flooded everywhere, and it had commercials. I woke up this morning and I saw this comments, and oh shit. So I fixed it for the channel members, so it should be fine now. But I still like that video of Darby Allin signing at WWE Championship. It's old, it's an oldie but a goodie. Have you all seen yet that video of Austin Theory wrestling in front of his grandfather for the first time ever when he was in WWE? That's a video that's starting to surface again because Austin Theory's about to turn babyface. And you're going to see more of those videos coming out. So Kevin Milwaukee asks, will they inevitably flood the market? How many Samoans are too many Samoans? I don't care if they're Samoans, Italians, Japanese, Chinese, Mexicans. If they are good, then keep them coming. I personally, because we covered this morning about what's going on with Zilla Fatu. And I said, if Zilla Fatu gets involved in this storyline, I think he should be on the side of Roman Reigns. Because I don't want this perception of old bloodline versus new bloodline. Roman Reigns and the Usos are veterans. I think giving the rub to one of their family members on the same team would help. So if they do bring Zilla Fatu into the storyline, I'd like to see him align with Roman Reigns. You still have Hikuleu. You still have others. I do agree, you do not sign every member of the bloodline that's out there simply because they're related. Because that's starting to happen if you look online. Anybody that's related to The Rock or to a Rikishi or Roman Reigns or an Uso, whoever it is, like, oh, no, WWE's got to bring him in. I'm like, no. There's some out there. I'm not going to name names. I don't want to disrespect anyone, but I know there's at least two that are on the indie circuit. And look, I should talk. They look like two fat slobs. Like, you're not bringing them on WWE television. Sorry. There's as long as they can do it. Look, Zilla Fatu is 25 years old. That's over 10 years younger than Jacob Fatu. You could mold him into a future star. You got to look at WWE right now. Who's going to be on top 5 years from now? Cody may still be around. Randy Orton may be final stages of his career. Who is going to be on top in the WWE 5 years from now? You got to start looking at it like that. What's going to be the turnaround? Look at WWE 5 years ago. Look at WWE 10 years ago. 10 years comes by a lot quicker than you think. Manu is too old now. What happened with LA Knight and Andrade's ending of their match? I don't know of any controversy to it. It just, listen, the way the match ended, they wanted to immediately put attention to Andrade Carmelo Hayes. Andrade's match with LA Knight was off the charts, went 15 minutes, crowd loved it. And then next thing you know, all everybody was talking about online was the brawl that Andrade had with Carmelo Hayes in the back, and now we're getting their sixth match together. Listen, a lot of people are starting to notice something that we noticed when they crowned the first ever Speed champion. Who was the first Speed champion? Was it Ricochet? I don't remember if it was Ricochet was the first Speed champion. Maybe somebody could check that for me. But I remember the person came out to the ring on Raw, and I'm like, oh, he doesn't have the Speed title with them. Is this just a Twitter thing? Okay, Bloody Money says yes. I don't know if anybody remembers when Kevin and I noticed that. Like, oh, he's the Speed champion, and he didn't even come out ringside with the belt. Is this just a Twitter thing? Andrade came out for his match against LA Knight, and they mentioned that he is the current Speed champion. He doesn't come out to ringside with the belt. So you have a title that you're not even celebrating or acknowledging other than a graphic on their main TV. And I think Andrade being up with LA Knight, it was designed so he loses and Carmelo gets into his face and they have this wild brawl and it sets up match 6. And I loved that brawl Friday night. I mentioned it on this morning's report. I've seen more violent backstage brawls. I've seen some outrageous brawls. But there's very few that looked as realistic as Melo and Andrade Friday night. That brawl could have looked like a legitimate brawl outside of wrestling. I mean, was it perfect? No, it never is because you're simulating. But man, those two guys, the interest that the fans have in seeing Melo and Andrade still go is very, very cool. Because, Andrade, there's still concern, guys. Once Andrade goes past Melo, what do you do now? Like, he's not on as much of a momentum as you would think that he is. The Speed Championship is, just something to give for those who are kind of like in creative purgatory. That's how I look at it. You really look at the Speed Championships, it feels like it's being designed for people who are in a little bit of creative purgatory. I think Meacham will become a Speed champion. I think Zelina Vega will become a Speed champion. And it's not a knock on any of them. But those who seem to get deserves more on hashtags, Speed is probably their destination. Starting to get it. So we're going to probably wrap this up very, very soon. I'm starting to feel, starting to like curse me out of my throat. They're like, okay, DT, you're about to lose it. So we're going to wrap this up very, very soon. Not JPEG. Ever dealt with any coworkers inside or outside the wrestling business that legit officially treat you with disrespect and feel like you're being singled out? Yeah. That's why I run my own insurance business. I run my own insurance business since 1998 because I don't like working for other people. I told this story once before, maybe twice before. In 1987, I worked in New York City for Smith Barney, which is an investment firm. I don't know if they're still around now. And I hated working in New York City. But the starting pay was $17,000 a year, And in 1987, that's not bad. And as long as you played your cards right, within a couple of months, you'd be at 20 grand a year. Now, I'm a single guy right out of high school, and I started working there. I was there for about 4 months, working my ass off. And then they were evaluating a bunch of people for a promotion, and I was one of them. And I had at least 3 or 4 people tell me, oh, you aced this. You got it. Your future is so bright, you need sunglasses. I know, it's goofy. By the way, did you all check out those 2 extremely fluff interviews with Tony Khan this week? I'm not criticizing Tony Khan, but Dave LaGreca, it couldn't happen to a better person. He is getting destroyed online for an absolute fluff interview with Tony Khan. Even the hardest supporters of Busted Open are it's like 8-2. It's like 4-1. They're like, what the fuck did we just watch? Why don't you just jerk him? Well, we don't want to get that explicit, but I got to stop myself sometimes. It was just so awful. But anyway, get to the point. So in 87, I'm working for Smith Barney. About 4 or 5 months later, they're evaluating a few people for a promotion. I'm one of them. So I do a few interviews, and the word is going around on the floor that it's mine to lose. And I'm going to get, end up getting low 20s in pay. Big deal. So after about 2-3 weeks, I find out they give it to this lady who is in her mid-30s with 2 kids. Nationality doesn't matter. Married. I didn't get it. And a lot of people were legitimately surprised. How did I not get it? So I make a meeting with my supervisor. I said, can I talk to you? We set up a meeting in his office. And I go into his office and I said, listen, I'm just curious. Did I do anything wrong not to get promoted? Was there something this way I can improve on it? And he said to me, and I'll never forget it. Now, you got to understand, it was 1987. So he says to me, he goes, can I be straight with you? I'm like, yeah, I would prefer that. He said to me, he goes, you are one of the best employees in my department. Why would I want to lose you to another area in this company? And then I realized this motherfucker sabotaged my shit because he wanted me to stay in his department. Then he says to me, plus, he says, how old are you? 18, 19? Isabel is married, 2 kids. She needs that hell of a lot more than you need it right now. You're a single guy. You live with your family. There's plenty of time for you to get promoted. She's in a position where she needs to raise a family. And I was like, listen, I appreciate what you told me, and I quit. I wasn't even if they offered me that $22,000 or whatever it was, I still would have quit. Now, these days, you'd have Stephen P. Nude, like age discrimination. But that's just the way it is. Ever since then, I always wanted to be my own boss. I don't trust bosses. I worked for some Chinese lady for a supermarket in the early 90s, like 90 and 91. And I got into an argument with her, and she accused me of stealing food just for a reason to fire me. And I'm like, I didn't steal no food. She's like, you stole food. Like, what did I steal? Don't matter. You're fired. I'm like, all right, fine. I'm like, wow, what a dick. I worked for a florist. My first ever job was a florist, $3.35 an hour. I worked for the florist. And they're like, why were you rude to that customer? I'm like, rude? What are you talking about? And the people were just coming up with creative stuff just because they want to get rid of people. I work for Finest Supermarkets. We don't need to revisit those stories. But, I don't like working for people. Even doing the shows. I like doing the behind the scenes. I like doing the editing. I like doing the preparing, the formatting, because I figure if I do it, I don't have to worry about someone screwing up. And then when someone screws up, you don't know what exactly they screwed up and how to fix it. So if I fuck up, I know it's on me. So, when you deal with people, and even in indie wrestling, there were people that tried to sabotage my shit all the time. You're going to deal with people like that. You just can't take it personal, because unfortunately, you're going to deal with people like that. Be the better person and just walk away. Yes, if you're all enjoying tonight's show, take a moment and hit that thumbs up. That sends a message to YouTube that you like the show, and maybe they would consider, recommending it to others. If you're not a subscriber yet, I don't even think I've brought this up in a year. We'd like to get to like 40, 50,000 subscribers. People are like, oh, when are you going to add more content on YouTube? If the channel grows, the content will grow. That's why we're doing the daily news updates now. When we started getting back in the top 20 in a lot of countries, then we decided, let's do a daily news update. Let's go back 20 years. I was doing that 20 years ago, every day, a little news update. Right now, we do 5 a week because of the other shows. But, that helps. You'd be surprised. We want to grow. We want to expand. We want to get back on number one spot. We want to pay bills. We want to, there's a lot of reasons to do this. So, everybody that's tuning in, you're already helping us, and we appreciate that. But, sometimes, unfortunately, we don't get noticed as much as others, for various reasons. And I'm not going to start clickbaiting, and I'm certainly not going to show my tits, to try to get attention over here. So remember, we don't fake news to make news. Some people already are tired of that statement. DeMarcus just sent over a 5 spot. Charlotte should take a chance, make a new gimmick and character. It would be cool to see Charlotte in the new WWE do some different stuff. As long as Ric Flair is still alive on this planet, Charlotte will always be looked at as a Flair. The last thing I want to see right now with Charlotte is Alexis King moment, where she throws down her Flair lineage and she's her own person. And I don't think anybody really wants to see that. Charlotte, if I remember correctly, isn't Charlotte like 38 years old? She might even be a little older than that. Charlotte doesn't have that many years left in the WWE ring. If Charlotte was much younger, then I could see doing that. And they kind of tried to do that already. If you remember a while back, she was, rejecting her father, and it didn't get over well with fans. DeMarcus says she is 38. See, I told you old Prevagen works. Some of you even said earlier, how does he remember dates like this? Prevagen. It works. This is not an advertisement. I get no money from them. But I think at this stage of the game, I think people would rather see Charlotte face new people. Charlotte Tiffany Stratton is going to be interesting. In a year or two, you're going to have more call-ups for NXT. The main women's roster is going to look a lot different in 2 years than it does now. And remember what I brought up last year. I don't remember the exact record, but last year, much to the surprise of a lot of you, Charlotte lost like 35 matches. When I put that stat out there, people are like, bullshit. That can't be true. Charlotte had arguably one of the worst years. I even think I don't even know if Natty had that bad of a record ever in a year. Charlotte lost so many matches. It's shocking. But if you look, check out her record. I'm pretty sure it was 2023. She lost a crazy number of matches and nobody even realized it. So, because she's so perceived that, she shows up and she's got to have gold all the time. That's people that don't really take a step back and actually look and see what's going on. I don't think Charlotte needs to change her character. She's got a presence about her. She comes off, perceives to be royalty. She wears the robe. She's got the pyro. She's got a great entrance theme. Why get rid of all of that? Just give her different opponents. Maybe change up her style a little bit. That's what I think would help. The problem you got to realize too, and thank you, DeMarcus, for that. The problem you got to realize too is that Charlotte is not very well liked amongst a lot of people. And I don't think anything you could do will change that. She lost so many matches last year and it didn't change people's views. You could change her character, and I don't think it's going to change people's views. For some reason, because, listen, that's why when Charlotte Flair was rumored to be the highest paid woman in wrestling, fans needed to convince themselves that, no, it's Becky Lynch. No, it's Mercedes Moné. No, it's they had to get it off of Charlotte. Anybody but Charlotte. BJ is asking, have I ever heard of the PayPal Mafia? It's unreal how many companies former PayPal employees created. Love the show, DT. Thank you, BJ. No, I haven't heard about the PayPal Mafia. It's unreal how many companies former PayPal employees created. I haven't heard of it. If what you're describing is that people who used to work for PayPal ventured into other companies, that doesn't surprise me. I do get phone calls from loan companies that have some connection with PayPal and we'll fund your account right now. And I'm like, no, thank you. Listen, if you could build a career from PayPal and branch out to, your own business or something else, cool. I haven't heard of it, and I don't know anybody getting strong-armed, because when you think of mafia, my perception of mafia is a little bit different. You don't give me that fucking $100 by Friday, I'm going to fucking stick this sausage up your ass. And I'll use the fatter side. I'm going to check it out. I'm going to Google it after we're done later. I'm not doing a daily news update today because yesterday we overloaded it. We did 70 minutes of updates yesterday. By the way, we're going to finish in 10 minutes if that's okay, guys, because it's held out good enough. But if you hear these awkward pauses, I don't mean to gross anybody out. If anybody's eating a nice juicy hamburger right now, my apologies. But when you hear those awkward pauses, that's me swallowing mucus. I'm like, I have COVID. I'm not asking for sympathy, but I feel like shit. It sucks. I'm going to go to work tomorrow, and I'm going to probably have to wear a mask. I just wanted to answer something. Shit. Oh, somebody asked about Miro. Check out my daily news update from this morning. Fightful reported that Miro asked for his release. That is true. Miro wants out of AEW. I'm not sure if that's because he wants to go to WWE. I think Miro just does not want to travel back to the States. I think AEW may be a calling. And AEW, it's pretty interesting. We know about the Kevin Kelly twat twins. The Tate twat twins. Man, I have no sympathy for the Tate twins, with all due respect. Got to be careful, because Stephen Pinu is a friend of the family over here. We don't want Stephen Pinu getting on. I don't want to get on his bad side. No, I don't have anything against Tate Twins personally, but you think of that lawsuit? What would happen? What would happen if Tony Khan calls Miro and says, Miro, we want you to come back. We want to start putting you on Dynamite. Tony, with all due respect, I am not coming back to America. What? Breathe. Like, what could AEW do? I'm sure you could sue Miro. But I don't know. I mean, it's like you hear about the contract structure. Like, what legal grounds can Tony Khan really do? And would he do it? Would he do it? I'm not convinced that Miro wants out because, I want to wrestle. AEW is paying me millions. I'm the redeemer. I want to redeem my money for matches. And AEW will not do it. I'll do it in NXT. I'll even wrestle, I don't know, anybody. I wrestle Stacks. I just think Miro just doesn't want to come back to the country, come back to the States. No, Tony, I want to stay in Bulgaria. So, will he end up in WWE again? Yes. Rusev will be back in the WWE at some point. It might be a William Regal situation where, because Miro's contract with AEW is not until May of 2026. So they may work something out where, okay, you're out of your contract, but you can't show up on WWE TV until May of 2026. I think that could happen. And maybe that's the negotiation that Miro has with AEW. Listen, as I said this morning, even if they brought back to Miro on TV, what's he going to do? Lose to Jack Perry? I mean, what are you going to do with him? They're not going to suddenly push the guy. For all these years, they thought bringing him in that, we'll have him play video games. That was the telltale sign, like, the fuck is this? All right. We're at an hour and 52. So let's finish this at 2 hours. I like Miro. And Miro, I honestly think, and I'm not exaggerating, I think Miro ended up with the greatest contract in AEW history. That man is averaging 4 matches a year. I think Roman Reigns with full-blown leukemia would still wrestle more than Miro. And I'm not trying to, leukemia is fucked up. I'm not trying to make light of it. My point is, this guy has had some injury, but he's been healthy for quite some time. And he, since 2021, late 2021, I think he's had 11 matches. That is ridiculous. That guy would have worked 11 matches in maybe 2 or 3 months for the WWE if he was on contract. Think about it. 36 months, 11 matches. He would have that in 36 weeks in the WWE. How do you make millions and get that? He's the smartest man to ever wrestle in AEW. That guy legitimately. I could only imagine him calling Bulgarian Grubhub. Oh, I want to order 45 hamburgers. Deliver it to this address. They call up a few minutes later. Sir, we ran the address and it's for the zoo. No, I'm only kidding. Don't make the food. Just keep the money. It's not my money. Tony Khan, he paid me. I make all this money doing nothing. Seriously, he's making millions to sit at home. He's such a smart man. Seriously. If I was sexier and he was into guys, I'd try to hit on Miro just to try to get a little donation. Hey, Miro, come on. You're not doing nothing with that money. Just send a couple of thou this way. Come on. There's people in wrestling that love what Kevin and I do. Send us a couple of thousand. We've been doing this for decades. Miro, come on. Redeemer. Redeem a little bit of it this way. The guy is smart, man. Smart. Let's see. I like this one. Marcus asks, babyface Chelsea Green versus heel Tiffany Stratton. I think they both would come off as uber annoying, even though I like both. They would be like nails on a chalkboard on both sides. It would just feel like one would sound like Dean Douglas chalkboard and the other one would sound like whoever else. By the way, I screwed up yesterday with the Trick Williams football stuff. Did anybody hear my update this morning talking about Trick Williams at the football game? And we were talking about the head coach. I didn't realize how low the volume was, but we were talking about the head coach. What was his name? Steven Dykes. And every time I said Dykes, you would have this. He said Dykes. So whenever we like have a conversation and we say like, the Memphis Cockholds. I started mixing, but it was too low. It was too low. I listened to it back this morning. I'm like, shit, it's too low, man. I have to practice my butthead again because I used to nail it. Because I got to say, like, you said Dykes. But that was the head coach's name. It was like Jonathan Dykes. And I was like, okay. I wouldn't mind seeing Chelsea Green versus Tiffany Stratton. I could just picture them arguing in the ring. And Nick Aldis would be like, shut up. Almost sound like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Shut up. You could feel that. They could be talking back and forth and they'll get in a conversation about makeup. I'm a better wrestler than you are. No, I'm a better wrestler than you are. You know what? My makeup looks better than yours. Shut up. I think that's the way it would go. I like that Chelsea Green is finally getting a little bit of extra love. Although Piper Niven, I don't know what you do, Piper Niven. Next thing is she's going to get squashed from Nia Jax. Scorpio 1117, thank you, my friend, for the super shout out. Who's had a better run, Jay Cargill or Mercedes Moné? Oh, Mercedes Moné by far. Whoa. Are we talking about Mercedes' career in AEW so far? If we're just talking about current AEW run versus Jay Cargill's current WWE run, I think that's a little unfair. Even though I don't like Mercedes that much, it's still a little unfair. She hasn't done enough yet in AEW. Tony Khan could tell the world until he's blue in the face that Mercedes is one of the greatest wrestlers of today. I compare it to like baseball. You could be the greatest hitter in the league. If you don't have enough at-bats, you don't qualify. Look at Roman Reigns and Adam Cole. They didn't even make the PWI 500 because they didn't have enough matches. Mercedes needs to wrestle more, and not just against Queen Aminata or Lisa Loeb or Melissa Jobber, number 3. She needs to have some good quality matches. So when you say, what's your favorite Mercedes match in AEW so far? Oh yeah, you remember that match with Sheeta? Oh shit, remember that match with Tony Storm? Oh, you remember that match? You got to start doing that. We can't say that right now. I think Jade Cargill has had a very good run on the main roster. She's under the microscope because of where she came from. But Jade Cargill, I think when everything is said and done, she is going to be looked at as one of the greatest women wrestlers of this generation, as long as she keeps improving, as long as she keeps wanting it, she comes off as a superhero. She's going to be that superhero. And she's being guided by Bianca Belair. Being a tag team wrestler right now is perfect because when she does have those wet fart moments or, brain farts, here comes Bianca to take it from here. I got it. Tag me in. So being a tag team right now, she has learned, listen, I don't know when, but within the next year, you're going to see a video monitoring Jade Cargill, following her around. Remember this. Within the next year, you're going to see a video where WWE's been tracking her and, just following like daily stuff and everything. And you will hear her repeatedly sing the praise that she has learned so much from Bianca and from Naomi and others, just being with them all the time and absorbing and taking it in and learning the grind and everything about it. They are helping her more than you could ever imagine. And that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. Mercedes gets more matches under her belt, then I would say the opposite. But right now, Jade Cargill has had a better run in WWE than Mercedes has had in AEW. Mercedes has not been in there that long. She came in this year. I mean, I know Jay came in this year too on the main roster, but still. The WWE grind and AEW's grind are two totally different things. So that's why I don't like comparing the two. All right. Let's see. Let's start wrapping this up. Maggie feels that Jade has not improved one bit. Did I see her latest complaining about the travel in WWE and how much hard work it is? Oh, yeah. That's why as she grows, again, she's still a rookie. I mean, she had a couple of years in AEW, but she should have grown a hell of a lot more. And they were just utilizing her the way that they did. And WWE had to literally gut her and start rebuilding her from scratch. So listen, you have to understand. Look at Tiffany Stratton as an example. Tiffany Stratton, go check her wrestling career before she went to NXT. Go look it up. See what you find. And you look at Jade Cargill before she went to AEW. Look at her wrestling career. See what you find. You'll see something in common with the both of them. Then you see what AEW did with the first 2-3 years of Jade Cargill's career. And then you look at what NXT did with Tiffany Stratton for the first 2-3 years of her career. Now you see where Tiffany Stratton is. Now you see what Jade Cargill is. Jade Cargill had to have a total rebuild. Tiffany Stratton went right to the main roster and is excelling. So Jade Cargill, she has to learn. Listen, I'm not guaranteeing that she will become one of the top superstars of all time. Some people may never be able to put it together. But I look at Last Legend, and I'm not just saying Last Legend because they're two tall, in-shape black women. But Last Legend, when she first came in there, with all due respect, she looked like an Oompa Loompa, the way she moved around. I always felt like she's not destined to be a women's wrestler. She looks like she plays basketball, maybe runs track and field. She just doesn't have it. The timing is not there. She looks like she's about to fall on her face. Now look at Last Legend. My words came off so stupid. Last Legend turned the corner. She's not ready for main roster yet, but Last Legend proved to me completely wrong. I was wrong by a long shot. If that could happen to Last Legend, it absolutely could happen to Jade Cargill. And Jade Cargill has very powerful people helping her. They want to help her. And More importantly, Jade wants to help. Jade should complain. Jade should be honest. Jade should, give a little bit of reality to people out there that, this is not a cakewalk. I don't just do photo shoots and just, squash people and get championships and legacy. No, she's actually got to work for it. And it's not easy. It shouldn't be easy. And the more people understand that, the more people will have respect for her. Thank you, Doctor, for the kind words. I'm very, very happy with tonight's stream. I'll tell you why. I removed for the first time the restriction in the chat that up until now, for the last 4 years, it's been subscribers only. And I always did that because I was always afraid of the spam and stuff coming in here, but I removed that restriction today. And I see a lot of new faces here hanging out, which is very cool. No issues whatsoever. And I see even, the numbers are a little higher tonight than usual. And I appreciate that because, again, I love doing this. I have fun. Obviously we're not making millions off of this. We're not breaking the bank. We do this because we love wrestling. And, it's a shame. I wrote this on Twitter a couple of days ago. Almost nobody cared, which pretty much showed me, really what the deal is. My views are a lot different than others. I'm a little bit less animated than others. Some people will scream and complain and get angry like they're ready to murder somebody over certain things in wrestling. There's some people out there that just belittle others. There's some people out there that will just gush over everything. Everything is cake and ice cream and puppy dogs. But one thing at the end of the day, whether you are loud, soft, whatever your style is, the one thing that everybody has in common is that they care enough about wrestling, that they want to see it better. Everybody has their own viewpoint. That viewpoint may not be a smart viewpoint, but everybody cares. At the end of the day, everybody cares. And unfortunately, that's not what people want to hear. Like, no, I want to shit on this person. That person's a dirtbag. I hate that person. Don't give me logic. So I can only control me. That's why earlier, that question about Mish versus Sean Ross Sapp, I don't want to get involved in other people's shit. It's not that I'm backing off or being a sissy or not taking sides or not sticking up for people that I care about or don't care about. It's just, I worry about my backyard. I know it sounds selfish, but even with politics today, I don't care about what's going on because my voice has never been heard. So I'd rather just worry about me and worry about us and just have fun and just have our own inner circle, and that's it. So, yeah, about like streaming quality and video quality and connections. What a difference from 20 years ago. Seriously. Because even when I was looking earlier, when I had that super chat come in about Bossman 20th anniversary and looking back at Bossman, like I went on Wayback Machine, I looked at my own website and I'm looking at the menus and how we used to stream at the time. And, 56K is really what was in. And to think 20, 25 years ago, doing this stuff and trying to be creative and, just loading pages. Like now everything is pretty instant. It's amazing how much advanced technology has become with the net. And that's why there's so many shows out there. It has become easy to do a show. 20 years ago was much different animal. And I can only imagine 10 years from now. I think 10 years from now, the internet will be wireless completely. I think even HDMI. I think connections to your TV will all be wireless. I think the speeds will even be higher than what they are now. I think the future, everything is going to be streaming. Everything is going to be wireless. And the quality is going to get even better. So when you realize that you don't need cables for video, cables for streaming, now you could just literally just turn something on and you're ready to go. So, no, I've been asked this question dozens of times over the years. I still disagree. Pineapple on pizza is a no. It's a no. For me, it's traditional. Pepperoni, sausage, olives, onions, extra cheese, things like that. Even garlic. But no pineapple. Bacon is all right. Bacon is all right. Bacon is a form of pork. It's just got a little smoky, more smoky flavor. So, all right, I'm going to jet, everyone. I'm going to go rest my voice, take some cold medicine, relax a little bit. I want to thank you, as always, for your support. It is very, very appreciative. Never be taken for granted. All we ask is if you like what we do, if it's a YouTube show, hit a like. You want to subscribe, love to get to 40,000. Be cool if we got to 50,000. I've been trying to do something with Kev, like Kev. We get to 50,000. How's about we do a regular show online? And it's all about schedule. It's not really about numbers. That's why we haven't pushed that. But download all the shows that we do, the audio side of things, because that keeps us relevant in the stats. There's no more warm feeling, and trust me, Kev will tell you this also, is we wake up. It's not the first thing we do. We should shower and shave first, but during the day, we check stats, and we see that, we are above Busted Open or above Cornet. Not in every country, but, you see the steady incline. And, to see that kind of response. And, if you're on Spotify or Apple, post a review, because those help us get noticed as well. If you want to check out our Patreon, we got 7 years of content there that is exclusive to Patreon. Plus everything else is there ad-free. So you can check that out. Be a channel member here on YouTube if you want. Not everything involves money. Download the show, spread the word, repost the link for the show, and word of mouth. Every little bit helps. And like I said, seeing the growth on the audio side is what led to the return of the daily updates. Right now, we've settled in at 5 updates a week, which is good. I don't want to do 5-minute updates. I mean, I don't want to mention the channel, but, there's someone out there that does a news update every day. And I clicked it out of curiosity, and it's 4 minutes. And I'm like, I don't want to do a 4-minute update. Definitely want to get into more stuff, but that's what happens when you do it 7 days a week. There's only sometimes only 5 minutes of combo, but we've settled in on 5. Everybody seems to like it for the most part, and we'll keep improving on that. And as this channel grows bigger, we'll add more content to it. Kevin and I will be back here together the Sunday before Halloween. So we'll be doing a special episode then. And if you're around tomorrow night, I should be okay. I mean, unless things really take a dramatic turn for the worse, I should be good enough for tomorrow night. Kevin and I will be live on our Discord. And we'll be back with your next installment of the DTKC show. So, my friends, I'm out of here. Much love as always. And I'll catch you all again next week. Sunday night, 8:05 p.m. Be well.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, Nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.